Yo, what is going on? Thank y'all for joining me on this wonderful Thursday. Another edition of Way of Waters. Have an esteemed guest. I'm very excited to present to you. And I mentioned on my Tuesday live on the other channel, which that is the Reese Waters channel. If you're not subscribed to that, go ahead and subscribe to that. So I mentioned on the other channel that um, for Easter, I got back on a trip down to Carolina for Easter, and I wanted to, I'm at some point on this channel, I'll probably get into 2017, which is when my dad passed, and some of the regrets I have about how I handled that. But generally speaking, I can say that I haven't always been the best about appreciating how fleeting time can be, right? And so not necessarily taking advantage of opportunities to meet family, or for family to meet family, and to tell people how you feel and all that kind of stuff. So try not to do that. And in saying that, I actually have a cousin I need to reach out to when I finish this live. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. Or at least I'm having this conversation with myself. So not wanting to do that again, because my grandmother, obviously my grandfather, or rather, obviously my father didn't meet my kids, but my grandmother passed when my daughter she's a couple months old. And we were still in COVID, and there was a lot going on at the time. It's not like I was sitting here like, no, that's not what happened, but it clearly wasn't the priority that it could have been. And she never got a chance to meet her great granddaughter, which I regret. So trying not to repeat those mistakes, took my family down to North Carolina to go see my dad's family for Easter. And this time they're also meeting my son, who's Kai. And it was a really profound trip for one specific reason, which was I've never been. Oh yeah, well you'll understand. There's a theme. There's a theme, which when my man Chance comes, you'll understand the theme. We got a theme going on today. So I've never been more proud of my daughter, because you take a baby down there, and I'm telling you, my son is like the most lovable baby there's ever been. He literally is the most lovable baby. We're probably leaving money on the table. He could be a Gerber baby. He could be Fisher Price. He could be. Do they have black hair care for babies? I don't know. That kid has it. That kid got the sauce. So everybody loves my son. And so we go down there, and he gets like bombarded with attention, which he loves. And he handled it well. And it's very helpful for us because, my daughter can be a bit shy, and that kind of takes a lot of attention away and allows her some time to get comfortable. But she's also at like a really unique point in her development. She's a toddler. She's 2 and change. She's kind of in the midst of her terrible twos. And you realize, or at least I realize, being around that on a daily basis, just how freaking irrational that can be. Okay. How just insane and irrational 2-year-old logic, and I use that in parentheses, can be, right? So for her to watch this deluge of attention go to my son and handle it with such maturity, like way better than I could have handled it when I was a kid. Way better. There was no way I was allowing all my relatives to flood my little sister with attention. That wasn't happening. No, something was getting broke. Okay, a toilet was getting flooded. Somewhere a faucet was getting left on, because I'm doing something to bring the attention back this way. You're not just gonna have all the attention. We're not doing that, Like, I would have handled that so badly. And she handled it with such freaking grace at 2. And I was talking to my daughter about, I was talking to my wife about it. She was like, well, I think that because she has a lot of pride in him. So she thinks it's normal for other people to take pride in him and to love him because she loves him. And I was like, that is not any maturity that came from me. That is definitely not any maturity that came from me. The other thing about it too is, so my wife and I have talked about how to handle my my daughter's shyness. She can be very shy, and my sister was very shy growing up. She has shyness in her family. Shyness. Act like it's an extra allele in the DNA. She got shyness in her family. It's a lot of shy people. I'm just saying, it's a lot of shy people. And my family did not handle it well at all. I'm just going to say, my family did not handle my sister's shyness well at all. We were at the restaurant, and my sister can't decide what you want. Well, you ain't eating nothing then. Well, obviously you ain't hungry. My family, we had no patience for it. No patience for it. And having watched that, I've downloaded 2 things. One, I also have no patience for it, sadly. And 2, that doesn't work. That's not helpful. Okay. So we have worked on ideas and ways that we can try and work with my daughter and to get her to feel more comfortable and to open up. And so I react a lot of different kind of ways when my daughter's in an environment and she's acting shy, not opening up. You have family comes over, friends of family comes over, and she doesn't want to say hi, or she won't answer questions and things like that, right? I don't always react the best. I'll be honest. I don't always react the best. I'm a work in progress. During this trip, I reacted differently. I actually viewed her coming to me as her trying to find that strength in me, not as like some sort of defect or weakness or anything like that. She's working to find her strength in me. That was how I reacted to it. She's doing what she can, and she's using the tools that she has available. And one of those tools is me, because I'm one of her comfort places. I'm one of her comfort people. And A, that felt really good. But B, it was like really cool to see the growth in myself. So it's not always to see the growth. It's not always that possible to see the growth in yourself, but I was able to see the growth in myself. And so for that, I appreciate. All right. I'll open with that story. Typically, I typically will open the live with videos, but I'm actually going to end the live with videos today. I'm going to bring in my guest. Was 19. Let me see what you guys are talking about on Instagram. Angel Reese was talking arrogant all season, but when she lose, she plays the victim. How you just come in hot with that? How you just come in hot when Angel Reese? Don't get me started. By the way, I do have a video. I do have a video that's coming out on my other channel about that. About the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark situation. Because look, I just wanted to watch basketball. I just wanted to watch a basketball game. I did not sign up for Race Proxy War April 2024. I didn't sign up for that. I just wanted to watch a basketball game. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. All of a sudden, I find myself in the midst of just shells flying back and forth between MAGA and whatever they will call it woke, although nobody on that side has used that since they adopted woke. But that's a story for another time. All right. I see my man Chance, who is clearly prepared as a professional and has his headphones which reminded me that I don't have mine. So, well, that's awkward. That's one of the things that I do appreciate about my live stream is that I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared. Y'all know that I always have my videos on time. Y'all know I always start on. Where am I haven't used them. I have not used them since last week, bro. All right, I'm gonna have to figure this out. Okay, I got a pair of headphones. We're gonna use these. I got a pair of headphones. I won these in a comedy competition back when TRL was a thing. I don't know if y'all remember MTV's TRL. They had a comedy competition, and I won a whole bunch of stuff. And because I'm the cheapest man alive, I still have all that stuff. So apparently, this is a pair of headphones that you can use plugged into a studio in DC, and you can broadcast from North Carolina. I mean, that's how long these. Look at this joint. I mean, I'm telling you, like I could go downstairs and listen to what Chance has to say. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I plugged in my headphones, and yeah, it was Fade the Black Supervillain. I plugged in my headphones, and apparently they were like, "You realize we from the '90s, right?" My headphones were like, "You realize we from the '90s? All right, okay. We just need to announce to everybody that we are from the '90s and shut everything down." Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest. He is a yogi. He is a teacher. He's a host. A man hosts a show on PBS. I call him an environmentalist. I like to call him environmentalist. But somebody that I met when I was up at Kripalu, and you guys that have watched this before know we've had Reggie on, and he did a fantastic job. So this was the retreat that Reggie led, and I met this gentleman, and he was fascinating to listen to. Mr. Chance York, what is going on, my friend?
What up, man? How's the sound?
The sound is perfect, and you know what? I got to make sure the sound is perfect because I know you are a musician, so you would judge me based on that.
Nah, man. It's pretty low key. I'm just in my. I gotta apologize in advance if my toddler throws a tantrum because it's nap time and she's not napping.
How old?
I have an almost 3-year-old and I have a 1-year-old.
Okay, all right. So we were like, right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what numbers are those for you?
3 and 4. Yeah, they're all girls. So I got a 6th grader, 5th grader, almost 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Okay, so the 5th grader is what, 10?
Yeah, just turned 11. Yep.
Okay, so there's about a 7-year break. So you did a 2-pack, a 7-year break, and then another 2-pack.
Yeah, the oldest and the third one are exactly 10 years apart, and the second and the fourth one are 10 years apart. So,
wow.
Yeah. 2 pairs, 10 years apart. Yeah.
That was one of the things I definitely wanted to bring up with you, just operating in this world and being a dad and a parent and how that infuses itself. But I first want to say that you were the most interesting person to listen to, and during our conversations that we had at Kapalo. And the reason for that is because you have a very unique way of infusing your philosophy, the things that you read, the things you understand about the world, and the things that you kind of internalize in order to make the world around you better, but just with your natural personality. And it's very impressive to watch, and it makes the things that you're teaching much they land different when they come from that space. So I really appreciate that about you, and it's something to aspire to. It really is.
Man, thank you. I'm just I think the practice of yoga, mindfulness and stuff is it has its fruits. Like the story you were sharing, you don't always see the results, but you notice things that didn't used to be like how they used to be. So I too am still just a work in progress, and recognize I've come a very long way, and know that I got a lot further to go, but recognize and appreciate the work that I put in, and appreciate that you recognize it.
You asked a question, actually. We were DMing on Instagram. There's got to be a way for you to be able to share this on Instagram on your feed as well.
Yeah, well, I remember I saw the thing, and I was I didn't know. You said YouTube, and then I saw you going live on Insta, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Like I never figured out. Like then I had to download Google Chrome, and so I could, all the behind the scenes things. But that's why I was late.
No, it's all good. It is all good. We got to figure out a way to do that. So one of the fascinating things that I learned about you, that I identified with about you, though, was your background, like how you landed in this world of yoga and mindfulness. So if you could just take the people through your journey.
Give me like a rough estimate of minutes you're looking for, because I can summarize it real short, but like I don't know, like what, like
I mean, like 5.
A 2 minute, okay, a 5 minute. All right. Well, that's definitely a lot easier. I guess I don't know. Are you talking about like yoga or like in showbiz? Like what? All right. Anyways, I'd say that I started my like journey inward to figure out like who am I, like probably when I was a teenager eating mushrooms. That was the first time when it's like, you hear the voice in your head and you're like, who is that? Like, who just said that? And just made me really curious about like philosophy and stuff like that. So I was always like, as a young person, I felt like there was something more to learn about being conscious. Like I had a background in church and everything. I was very spiritual, but that wasn't really for me either. I was also very critical or whatever. But around college, it's probably high school, like senior year, I was watching a movie called Go. And it's like an old movie about ecstasy, the rave scene and partying and stuff.
Really? We call it Go an old movie now?
Bro, that's an old movie, bro.
Like, it's an old movie now?
That's a classic film. Anyways, you know how the homie's talking about Kama Sutra, or no, Tantra, baby. He says that's Tantra, baby. And he was talking about some sexual exploits or something. Yeah. And there was just like a line that I connected between like yoga and the Kama Sutra and Tantra and performing well in bed. So as a teenager, I'm like, there's something to that, like that's interesting to me. So a very superficial reason for picking up the Yoga for Dummies book, pocket edition, when I was buying my freshman year textbooks in college. And I was like, it's going to make me better at stroking. And that was my entire motives. And I'm reading the pocket edition. It's like, okay, sit up tall, breathe and stuff. And then I started feeling like, what is going on? Like, why do I feel messed up? Like, why do I feel sweat, like I'm sweating, and why is this so hard to just sit still and everything. So that was like my first official practicing of yoga for dummies.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, didn't really like, I knew it was a powerful thing. I didn't really have a formal practice or anything, didn't have a community or a teacher or anything like that. But I knew it was interesting. I knew it was powerful. And then it wasn't until like a midlife crisis later, like my mid 30s, I'd been a musician for a long time, like, you know, knew a lot of people struggling with chemical dependency, had definitely bad habits of my own. And I just fell into like a depression that I couldn't get out of for like a handful of months. And I was just like really humbled by it and was like, is this how it's just going to be from now on? And you know, magically I just made my way back to meditating. And there's a book that I was reading that was, you know, guiding a meditation about, instead of thinking about worst case scenarios, like think about best case scenarios, think about like light, like what does light feel like, and just like real basic level guided meditation stuff. And it was the first time that I'd felt okay in like a couple months. And I was like, this is what I need to do, is develop a better practice or a better habit around reflecting and trying, because I was just in a way where like I couldn't see anything but downward spirals everywhere. And this was 2016, so like on a big picture scale, this is like the rise of like Trump politics, where it was just very scary for me to be like, holy shit, somebody, I can cuss, right? Somebody in my, you know, like people in you know, people close to me and close to my kids were like, yeah, Donald Trump, that's a good idea. And I'm like, y'all are crazy. This is like, made me feel really uncertain about the future. And same summer, Philando got killed by the police on Facebook Live. I watched that. It was very traumatizing. And I have mutual friends with Philando. I didn't know him personally, but a lot of people I know knew him. And in the midst of all that, you know, I'm still a musician. I'm playing a show called the Basilica Block Party in this band that I was in, Eric Mason's Detail. And one of the co-stars of that group is a person named V Bohem, who you should Google, VIE, and then Bohem, like the Bohemian way. Mm-hmm. She was just like a light worker. She just knew and understood energy and radiated light from her, just a, you know, queen. But she was like, after this concert, you know, there's demonstrations going on. There's like police violence taking place, like in opposition of people demonstrating against. So this is like 2016. And we're all pretty bummed and like pissed off. And, you know, she was like, you got to meet my teacher. So I met this guy, Matt Portwood, who after talking with him for like 20 minutes, is like, why don't you teach yoga? And that was the first time the idea was ever planted in my mind. And then I ended up training and becoming certified through him and his business partner at the time, Jana Portwood, at Radiant Life Yoga School. And, you know, just meeting them was like such a lifesaver. You know, the first thing I know, like the first actual yoga class I ever took. And, you know, the first time I ever like laid in Shavasana, which is like the still meditation at the end of the practice and stuff. And I realized I was obsessed with politics. You know, it's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I can't I can't believe somebody would vote for Donald Trump, but it's like, but who is going to vote for Hillary? I'm like, there's no answer here, you know, like, and just realizing I was like obsessed with, like, I couldn't stop thinking or trying to think of things. And yoga just really found a spot. And because I had, you know, music fans and just a community already existing, it was pretty easy to start leading yoga classes that were fairly successful, which is a big part of how you get better at teaching, is the opportunity to continue teaching. Like, people, if nobody wants to learn from you, you don't get to practice teaching. But I always had people that were interested in learning from me, which allowed me to teach a bunch of yoga. And then when the pandemic came around and there wasn't anything else to do, I just started live streaming. You know, when everything was shut down, I was like, I'm just going live. I'm gonna go live at 5, and I did that every day for like 100 days, from like March 2020 till the fall. And PBS had contacted me about a new series that they have. They have something called Minnesota Original here, which features like Minnesota musicians. And I was in an episode of that with the band, Eric Mason's Detail, and met the producer on that shoot. And so he was like, we have this new series. Instead of that, we're doing pandemic performances. We just send a crew to your house and you can do a couple songs, you know, in your yard or whatever. It's like, cool, let's do that. So I had this PBS crew out. I'm like, these are this is my flower garden, and this is like this and that. And it wasn't long. Like, it was a couple months later. They're like, do you want to show? Like, do you want to show where you're outside? Like, and like, do you think you know, what's your fear tolerance? Like, would you go in very cold water? You know, would you go on Lake Superior in the winter? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. I'm into that type of shit. And they're like, would you go rock climbing? And I'm like, ooh, like, I'm kind of afraid of heights. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So agreeing to those things, we shot the pilot, and it was picked up, and it was, you know, you can stream it. It's on all the streaming services. Outside Chance on PBS. We ended up shooting 2 seasons of that. The first season, well, both seasons had an episode nominated for a regional Emmy. The first year we won it, actually. It was the mountain biking episode, and it was just kind of an episode about repurposing land. So Minnesota's like the Iron Range, where like all the, you know, iron that built warships during the wars and all that was like mined in northern Minnesota. But how this torn up mining wasteland is now like some of the best mountain biking tracks in the Midwest, or something like along those lines. And like teaching this story, and like the head of Minnesota outdoor off-road cycling, or Minnesota off-road cyclists, happen to be a brother, you know. So it's like this whole conversation about like who's outside, you know, like what are people doing outside? And so not by any, like, not to be like exclusively about BIPOC outdoor people. It just naturally was that, you know, just because there's a lot of interesting stories. And
I was gonna say, you know how much they must have celebrated when they saw we just talked a brown person into doing all of this stuff.
I'm sure, like, you know, I'm sure that had some type of impact why they found me, or, you know, like why I was in the conversation. But they were very intentionally not trying to create another outdoor Minnesota show about like a old white guy and his dog, you know, like they wanted it to be, you know, more well, a lot quicker, because they're trying to make web content. So the episodes are like between 8 and 12 minutes long, and they're very like fast moving, and it's PBS, so it's educational, but it's also like fun and funny, and it's me either excelling or like failing at the thing, but, you know, just coming along on the adventures. And it's really cool. So all of those things combined have led me to now being kind of just like known for public speaking about this type of stuff, making content about this type of, you know, yoga, wellness, the outdoors. You know, I talk about all of those things because I don't see them as a separate thing. I see it all as kind of a relationship to yourself and the world around you. But it's led to a lot of things, and it's kind of a fascinating ride.
One thing I really appreciate about the story you told is first of all, shout out to Supervillain, talking about better at stroking. Yes, you can't be the only one who was thinking about Clarence Carter. I'll be stroking.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about Clarence Carter. I appreciate you started that story with the mushrooms, because one of the things I learned when, as I've told people here before, I'm in recovery, right? One of the things I learned in that journey was that my search for some deeper kind of meaning was the fuel that drove me to those places. Like, I didn't think I was looking for God in the Steel Reserve 211, but I was trying to find some kind of deeper meaning, and I was trying to find some belonging, and I was trying to make sense and some order of the world. And so now that I come out on the other side, have some appreciation for the fact that, you know, this journey actually encompasses all of these other things too. Like, you've actually been on this journey for a long time, whether you know it or not.
That's right. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, and you can see that looking back, you know, like, oh man, this thing led to this thing, led to this thing, led to this thing, you know. But when you're in it, that's where, you know, a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons why people use, and but it's a lot for just a different experience, you know, like experiencing something different than what's just like routine. And also another big reason is you know, fear and uncertainty, you know, like anxiety, like to ease what it is of the unknown, you know. So like being somebody that is aware of a spiritual connection to everything around, it's a lot. It's really uncomfortable, so people either try to numb it down or to like calm the uncertainty. But when you look back at things, you're like, oh, this is, you know, like whatever discipline or whatever dogma type of faith you are, it's just about like God testing you, you know, what, like, for lack of a better word, it's like what makes a, like, I just read a quote, can't remember who said it. It's just a meme that I read, but it said that the cure for the pain is in the pain. You know, it's just, and it's like that's pretty much it. You know, like that's like the summary of like all faith and spirit and everything, is like the only way to it is through it, or, you know, like all of that stuff. You know, it's in every book, it's in every organized thing. You know, like, and just, I'll probably say it again, but to simplify like what spirituality is, it's the serenity prayer. You know, like that's what my spiritual practice is. Not the serenity prayer by name. It's in everything, and that's what every major lesson is pointing me back to. It's, you know, the acceptance, or, you know, the patience, or I can't even remember how it goes, but like to accept
the serenity prayer.
Yeah,
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Yeah,
the courage
to
change the thing I can.
Yeah, and the wisdom.
Know the difference. Yeah.
And this is the thing, you know, that's what yin and yang means. You know, it's like you're all powerful and you also aren't shit at the same time. That's what balance is, you know. And like how you can live a life in balance is recognizing that balance is the practice. You know, it's like, you know, a combination of a relationship to God, recognizing you can create the reality that you want around you because of your relationship to, you know, God, universe, whatever word you use. But you're also just a tiny little speck in the whole scene of it too. And both of those things are equally true. And finding the balance of those two things is when you're, you know, in alignment with, you know, whatever, you know. So I like to read the Tao a lot. I mean, the Tao has a lot of, which is absolutely, what did you come, an environmentalist or whatever? It's exactly that. It's like, yo, just being closer and in harmony with nature, you know, like that's what it means, you know.
Yeah, it was one thing you were always good for, is recommending a book. And I got home, I was like, he'll be reading all these books. He'd be listening. He'd be listening to these books.
That's true. Yeah. I enjoy a good audiobook sometimes too.
Atomic Habits. That was the one that you had recommended to me when we were up at Kapalu. I am curious about, because you mentioned how obsessed you were with politics. And that was the space that you like formally entered into this kind of training. That's really fascinating to me, for one, because I have a whole nother channel where I mostly just talk about politics and just
lose my mind.
Okay. Just go crazy. But right, this channel is like, okay, you don't have the power, which is like another program thing, right? Lack of power is your dilemma, which is like you don't actually have the power to change all of these things around. You have some power, but like you can't change other people. You can't change. You can't influence results. Like all lack of power, right? So I'm like, okay. I mean, there's no better. Nothing is more exemplary of a lack of power than our political system right now, right? So I'm like, so there's me going crazy and yelling into the ether, but maybe there's another way that we can try and find some peace in this moment while we wait for the world to do us right. You know what I mean? I'm curious about your process of how you relate to all that outside stuff as you got deeper into this journey.
Man, I mean, it's still like a daily observance of like, yo, am I too focused on things I can't control right now? You know, it's like the mindfulness, meditation, yoga, all that is about being present and about being consciously aware of like how you are. So all of the shit that I learned back then is still the stuff that I practice today because I'm undoing the unconscious habits. I'm becoming aware of how those themes and routines are like embedded in my unconscious awareness, which is actually most of our lives when it comes to neuroscience. We spend a lot of time in a loop that is an autopilot loop of thought, feeling, and action. And mindfulness allows you a choice to where what's getting that kind of attention. So a lot of it is just being aware of like how I feel, because like every morning my Instagram feed is giving me a update on the last 24 hours in Gaza, and the shit just breaks my heart, and then I just see the responses and it just makes me pissed off. So like just being aware that I'm both like sad and angry is then how I can operate to either process what can I actually control about this, what do I actually control in my life, because it is equally as important. I was like, I'm shaping my life right now. I can get real pissed and sad about some shit I see on Instagram and turn around and just dump that stuff onto my kids, it's like, or my partner or myself or all of the people I interact with. So it's an ongoing process of just being aware, so like there'll be days when I'm like, when it affects my energy, and the practice is continuing to set down the things that I can't carry, like, so, I have a rap line recently. It's like, for now, enlightenment means setting heavy shit down, like that's like all I'm doing. Like when I'm relaxing, when I'm softening, when I'm doing the thing, I'm recognizing what's heavy in me right now, like what's heavy on me emotionally, my thoughts, the tension in my body. I'm identifying it and I'm letting it go, and it's like, that's this most simplified practice, a meaning of practice, but it comes across in a lot of ways. But comes back to that, accept that I cannot change this, be courageous enough to be responsible for the shit that I am impacting, because I know it can quickly spiral into, my relationship suffering, my kids' relationship suffering, me feeling shamed and upset and failure about that. And then like everything just comes crumbling down. I know it will happen to me again. I know that's just part of life. It's like, but the thing that happens day to day as a practice is just being aware of like, hey, I'm upset about this. I'm angry about this. I'm sad about this. Or, I'm really, or the opposite, which is like, I don't give a fuck about anything right now. And that too needs to be addressed, like, so like that. So it's about balance, like in recognizing where on this scale am I trying to shift myself toward, that's when it
is there like a regular practice, so like a stick you could jam in the wheel of that loop that can break it when you're in it and you don't know that you're in it, but it's like, oh, I do this thing, that can bring me out of it?
Always, man. There's always a method, and it might vary. I have a lot of tools depending on the severity of what I'm going through. But yeah, I mean, every single time that you find yourself all the way here, your mind's not wandering somewhere else. You're aware of either how your body feels, your posture is, your breath is, whatever's happening in your physical body. If you're just feeling your feet on the ground, you know, like all this stuff is taught in a lot of different types of therapy. But every time that you find yourself completely present, that's where you have choice, you know. Otherwise, you're just in it and it's rolling. So like starting with a good 5 minutes a day of just reflection, breathing, journaling, slowing down, whatever. There's a lot of ways to do it. Maybe stretching, you know, sun salutations, whatever, seated meditation, laying meditation, tons of ways. But, you know, just starting with 5 minutes a day is a very challenging place to start. That's already a lot of commitment. You got to make these habits, right? So that Atomic Habits book, this is one of those things that to build a habit, you have to do it often, you know, and like then it happens without you noticing it. So you want to set up your life to make the habits you want to happen easier, and you want to make the habits you don't want to happen more challenging to come about, you know. So something like meditation or, you know, reflection or whatever you want to call it is being quiet. Breathing is a really good one because the breath calms the nervous system, which shifts your body, which makes it a lot easier to observe how your body is. So breath work, you know, is a really popular one. But, you know, some days when I'm really in it, like I'll make a million excuses not to breathe deeper, you know, like, or go to the mat or sit down or chill out or be quiet. And those are just habits that have to be unlearned. So it's like one incremental step at a time, but it always is happening now. It's always right now, which is both an empowering and, you know, scary reality. It's like we're shaping a lot of this stuff, and a lot of people are either in denial about, you know, it's way easier to point the finger at everybody else, so on. And then there's also people that don't think they have any control, and it's somewhere in the middle where harmony is. That's the target. I mean, the target would be here, you know, being present is the goal, you know, like just being present. But then, you know, if using these techniques, you're either shifting yourself more toward action or more toward acceptance of inaction, you know, like, so yeah, I don't know. Do you want a technique? I was like, do you want me to guide a minute of just basic breath work? Do you want to?
I would love if you could do that. Let's end with that.
Okay.
Actually,
So,
let's end with that. Yeah. So when we left that retreat, one of the things that I know about myself is my commitment waxes and wanes, right? I've gone through periods of explosion. I feel so, and then, you know, I've gone years without meditating, right? So I had the commitment. I said, okay, kind of like you said with the 5 minutes, I said, you know what? I'm going to write. I'm going to do some morning pages when I wake up in the morning. I'm going to do some meditation, and this is what I'm going to do. And I've been very consistent from then till now. It's been a year and change, right? Maybe no, like a year. I've been very consistent. What do you do when you realize that elements of your spiritual practice have become rote? When you realize that you're just not, like, the car ain't
going through the motions, you say, like, like just repeating it for the habit.
I've been doing it, but I'm like, the car ain't going. Like, what's going on?
Well, hey, I would say this, because how things wax and wane, you know, results are, you know, so this is a kind of a Buddhist theme, which is non-attachment. Work with a love for the work, you know, the labor, and the fruit will come on its own. Don't become attached to fruit. Don't put a timeline on your development, because like you're just saying, the thing about how you are behaving differently and you notice yourself behaving differently over here in life, that is a direct result of the other stuff. So instead of being like, this shit's not working, or like, you know, it's not working fast enough, you know, it's like planting a garden, you know, you can't see it working. And like when you first put those seeds in the ground, you got to, you know, the sprouts and healing is not linear, you know, and like what might seem like going backwards is actually going forwards, because somebody explained it as like a spiral up. You might feel like you're walking in the wrong direction, but that's just because you can't tell, you know. But the idea is, if you have habits in place that are bringing you to center, that are getting that reflective whatever, then the work is actually about being non-attached to your expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I thought I would have by now been able to do so and so. It's like, where did that come from? Like, you made up those expectations in that timeline and so on. So surrendering that too, and being in love with the labor, and being non-attached to the fruit, because the fruit will come in places you're not expecting it, at times when you're not expecting it, but it won't come if you don't do the work.
You mentioned hip hop. I just want to ask you about this, because I know that you've been a musician for quite some time, and you still perform and still do your thing. I know intellectually, right? I know intellectually that well, you mentioned hip hop, but you also mentioned Instagram, right? Where you reading stuff on Instagram and getting upset, and how you process that, right? So what that triggered in me is, like, I know intellectually what I get out is going to be the work I do with what I put in, right? And so if I'm putting in a bunch of bullshit, you can work it out, you know what I mean? But you would probably be better if you were more discerning in what you put in. Now, as it relates to hip hop, right? There's been so many times, and I know people like, yeah, man, I can't even do today's rap. Like, I just do, or not even like making a generational thing. Just like, you know what? I can't do the shoot 'em up. I can't do that. I can't do, like, I'm all conscious. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit here and listen to hymns about, black men shooting each other and that kind of thing, right? And I'm like, the kind of person who creates the kind of content I create should think that. But I can't let 21 Savage go. I just can't let him go. I'm not there yet. And I'm like, I would probably be so much more advanced if I did a better job of controlling what I put in. Maybe don't spend hours on World Star watching knockouts. That's probably not good. It's probably not good for me.
Hey, bro, I mean, it all comes back to balance, man. It's like, this is the thing. Like, don't deny parts of you that make you feel whole. It's all about balance, like, you could listen to, whatever the opposite of 21 Savage is, you can listen to that half the time too. I enjoy new rap music if it makes me feel a way that matches the way I'm trying to feel. If I'm getting amped to go out and be on the town and stuff, like, I'm not listening to meditation music on the way out necessarily. I'm trying to get amped, and there's good shit that makes me turn up and feel, like, that stuff is very like ego, it strokes the ego. It's very, that's what rap music is about. It's like, I'm a fucking boss, so that yin and yang piece of it, if I'm feeling low or depressed or powerless and stuff, a push in the direction of ego and assuredness and power is bringing me back to balance. Like, that's how I feel. But at the same time, if that's all I'm doing, which I've definitely been in phases of my life like that, where I'm all just cock and balls, and like, know that that's a problem. That's not healthy. It's not healthy for the people around me. It doesn't get me what I want. Balance is the thing, so there is a time and place for anything, and there's enough room in life. This is the thing: as you start associating more mindful practices into being present in your life, you realize there's a shitload of options. You have a lot of choice. You have a lot of time in life, but you have to reclaim that stuff from the autopilot. So we all have 24 hours in a day or whatever, but that's the thing. That's what has shown me. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you do all that? And like, there's times when I feel tired, and there's times when I feel like I'm doing too much or whatnot. But otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing anymore. I feel rested. I feel, like, not all the time pushed to the brink. And like, I feel like a good level of balance, and I'm productive, like, whatever balance that means. So there's that too is a result of just recognizing that right here, right now, there's a choice always, you know. And the most meaningful thing that I can do is recognize there's a choice right here, rather than just one foot in front of the other, which autopilot is. It's just well walked neural pathways. I have to see that there's another way to go besides the obvious next step. And when you start doing that, you know, that's stepping into, I just recently heard a dude, Benjamin Zander. Benjamin Zander. I got his book. He's the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and he was the keynote speaker at this medical conference that I opened up like maybe last month. But his whole speech was about the power of possibility, or possibility-centered thinking, rather than downward spiral thinking. And I've, you know, similar to like growth versus fixed mindset, you know, it's the same idea of like, which I feel like growth and fixed mindset is more of a common, well-known thing. But for people that don't know, fixed mindset believes like you're born with these skills, you're not changing everything, you know, basically you are who you are, you can't change, and so on. And a growth mindset is, you know, I might not be able to do that yet, you know, like, but I'm still a growing, adapting, living organism. Like I'm not a static, stuck, fixed mind, right? Like I still have the ability to grow and learn and adapt and change and so on. So he kind of just framed it in a way that was helpful. That fixed mindset he explained as downward spiral thinking, which I can totally relate to, because that's where I was before I, like, you know, took a big lifestyle pivot. Was like everything's going to shit. It's all downhill from here. I'm like, it's civil war is all upon us, and like all the everything, you know, like, anyway, there's no future for my kids, you know, like that's where every thought was at, like day after day, and I couldn't get unstuck off that. But the opposite of that is power of possibility thinking, where every opportunity, every moment is an opportunity for something that's like beyond your wildest dreams, you know, or like the seed that's growing toward whatever the thing is, whether it's the worst experience in your life, you know, to like some small affirmation here and there. Like if you see possibility in your life and you focus on that rather than this idea of everything's falling apart, it just shapes your whole story differently, and people recognize it in the way that you move and the things that you do over extended periods of time. So this guy's like 84 or 85 years old, and he's talking about, he's like, I recommend the mid 80s to everybody. It's a fascinating time to be alive. And I'm like, the fuck? I've never heard anybody say that, you know, but like that's the, you know, especially in people that are advanced in age like that, you see it in them. Either they're the most gracious, grateful people, or they're just fucking mad, you know, like they're just bitter, you know, like, and there's just less balance, you know. It's like they like sway further on one side than the other. And like that, it's kind of I don't remember where I was going, besides there's time, and being aware of like the track that you're on comes from repeated just checking in with the track that you're on, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask you this, and then we'll get to the questions, and then we'll let you take us out of here with a meditation. But so your two oldest predate you formally entering into this training. So obviously they're different kids, they have different needs than they were when they were younger. But how has your journey influenced you as a parent?
Man, dude, it was crazy when my older two were the age that my younger two was. There was, you know, a lot of just substance abuse in our house. There was a lot of just anger, and it was just all the, you know, toxic shit going on. And today it is much more stable. It's not that it's never like it's not like it's never crazy at my house. There's four daughters, but I would say there's a whole different amount of like accountability and like patience and stuff that, like, it's not all the time. It's like I'm still totally prone to being impatient or like yelling at my kids. It happens. but it's so less often, and it's so noticeably the not norm versus just the norm, you know, like every day used to be chaos. Now it like happens, but it's far enough apart that that's a very notable change in outcome. And, you know, just being able to like not compare, but just like see how, you know, people my age, friends and whatnot, just who haven't really stuck to any type of practice like that, just how, you know, how different it seems now when I witness how like I might have acted at one point or whatever, you know. So I would just say it's changed me greatly, but not like one key thing. It's like, oh, I meditated today, so it's all Zen all day. It's not the case, you know. It's like it's I meditate to like be aware, you know. If I get dysregulated, if I get angry, if I get, you know, like out of hand or overly like reactive or whatever, I can recognize that that's happening, which just keeps the cycle of just like blaming or like being the victim or the thing that just perpetuates that shit forever. You know, it's like I can set it down. I can say, hey, I did that. That was wrong. I'm going to make a conscious effort to not do that, you know, like, and own what I can and, you know, forgive myself for that I do it and recognize that it used to be way more common and that, you know, I can accredit that to just being more responsible or, you know, more accountable by recognizing that, you know, I have the ability to chill a situation out, or I have one to drive it more crazy, you know, like that's a choice that I have to see rather than, you know, like I used to just get so angry I would like black out and yell and say shit that I didn't even remember, you know, like and just in the heat of an argument, it was like, oh, and like, you know, me and my partner, we're both like that. We're fire when we lose our shit. It's like, you know, it's very immature sometimes, but it's way less often that it gets to that, like very notably a vast improvement. And just like the environment around here, it's like my older kids, they could lead a yoga class very easily. They're just so like used to it. And like my 2-year-old and 1-year-old like see me teaching classes and, oh, I'm gonna go teach, you know, I teach a weekly Zoom and I'll do webinars and stuff from here, and they'll be like, let me say hi to your friends, you know, and they'll come or they'll sit on my mat while I'm teaching or whatever, you know. It's like they're just
so they're around while you're doing it. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes like they're pretty young, so like it's not always, but at least the beginning of a class or the end of a class or whatever. But they're what they are around is just witnessing that this is something that is done. You know, like don't bother daddy right now, he's meditating. You know, like that's a normal thing that they'll hear. So like from baby size, they know that there's times when I might just be sitting still and, you know, to be quieter or, you know, not try to start a conversation with me or whatever, you know, like, but then everything, you know, like they'll just be like, I'm doing yoga, look, you know, like, and that's, you know, the 3-year-old is always doing some pose or I want to belly breathe. There's a song on Sesame Street that Common did, and it's called Belly Breathe. And it's just teaching basically the same technique that I'll teach right after this, but using your diaphragm to breathe is like a switch on your nervous system. It's called the vagus nerve, which in general, like a really broad look at it, is basically like your sympathetic nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that's like the side that's associated with fight or flight, like action, like adrenaline and cortisol and stress. Like there's one side of the nervous system that ramps that up. And then the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite, they say the rest and digest side of your nervous system, which, you know, takes all that energy that would be going to running or fighting and puts it towards like repair and restoration and healing. So that switch is, you know, it's in your heart. It's in the bottom of your heart and goes right to your brain. But the diaphragm is this big dome-shaped muscle underneath your rib cage. So when you breathe with your belly and you pull your belly out as you're breathing, you're stretching this diaphragm, which is releasing tension off of your vagus nerve. I don't know if like it's the best language, but if you were just to visualize like a nerve just being less restricted,
Mm-hmm.
just the way that you breathe can shape whether you're ramping your nervous system up or bringing yourself down. And it's pretty, it can be, you can definitely start with a very simple understanding of it like that and just feel it working.
Would that be related to like hyperventilating? Like
Totally.
if you're in a situation you hyperventilate and then you're actually freaking yourself out with your okay.
Totally.
Gotcha.
I mean, anxiety, panic attacks, it all has to do with breathing, you know, and even, you know, like they, you know, this might be kind of dark, but they train snipers how to breathe. And then, you know, on a lighter side, it's like they train actors how to breathe. Like if you need to cry or if you want to be really angry, like you change your breath to match the feeling, because then you're not acting anymore. You put all your systems into that shape, you know, make your vein bulge out of your head and make your eyes like make your pupils dilate. Like all of that shit comes from the way that you're breathing. And you know, just a real simple overview. You know, it's not like the whole story, but part of the story is, you know, if you emphasize your exhale, it's going to be more responsive to that parasympathetic side. It's going to make you calm down, like a sigh. When you are relieved, you breathe out, and when you're startled, you know, it's the opposite. So if you want to gas yourself up, you focus on emphasizing the inhale, which can be seen in like Tumo breathing or like the Wim Hof style breathing, where people are submerging themselves in frozen water and stuff and just breathing in a way that their body temperature doesn't drop. So it's like I said, a lot of oversimplification there, but still a working enough model to practice it and see results.
That's really fascinating. I hadn't thought about that. So like in those moments, you know, I'm somebody that can have panic attacks in certain situations, but when I think back on it, yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on the inhale. You know, I hadn't thought of like switching that. That's super helpful.
Yeah, try to relax when you're having one of those things. It's like getting down into the bottom side of your, it feels like your heart's in your throat, or like however they, you know, can describe it. It's because this upward motion, you're like your diaphragm is pulling way up and in, you know, in a in like a, what do you call it? Like a reaction, knee-jerk reaction. What do you call that? Anyway, reflex. Yeah, in a reflexive way. Like it's hard to breathe deep into your belly when that's going on. So just being able to relax enough to breathe all the way in and slow your breath all the way out, that takes practice, but that is essentially going to get you there, whether that's 2 breaths or 200 breaths, depending on how activated you are, you know, like that's, and once again, like this is a very general, like there's exceptions to these things. Like there's some breaths that, you know, you focus on the exhale, but it still gasses you up or whatever. But in general, slowing down your exhale is going to calm you down, and expanding your inhale for longer is going to make you get gassed up. Yeah, so we could like when I guide this breath work, I'll teach you a real basic one, the box breath, which is about balance. You know, it's equal parts of both, but it also includes a breath hold of equal length. So I like that one. Or, you know, if you want, like, really, I could show you any of them in a minute or two of doing any of those. You're gonna feel different, you know, whatever that might mean.
My man Kit in the Memphis Toys says he used 4-7-8 breathing.
Yeah.
To fall asleep.
So right there is a perfect example. So the 4 is how long you breathe in for. So it's a shorter inhale, and the 7 is the hold. So you hold your breath in for 7, and then you exhale for 8. So that's the length of each count. And the exhale, as you see, is twice as long as the inhale, and it'll help you fall asleep. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. The rest and digest is on the exhale. If your exhale is longer and more emphasized than your inhale, then your body is feeling a shift toward, and that might make you start yawning. That might make you get warm or chilly. You know, like your nervous system is a very important, delicate part of your body, which is it's your brain. It just goes through your whole body. Nerve cells, neurons, they create this network that's like a spider web through your whole body, and it's responsible for how you feel, you know. which is a crazy which is a much more deep thing than how it sounds. Like, how are you? How do you feel? There's a lot of ways you feel at any given time, but it's about being able to point your attention to those things.
Shout out to Paige's Yoga for joining us. She's been like super helpful to some of the lives that we did in the past. We got a lot of people, especially on Instagram, really appreciate a lot of what you've been saying. Still Waters 175, breaking down knowledge, much appreciated. And then my boy G from the shop says sex and drugs, 2 great starting points.
Hey, I mean, it is what it is, man. I'm not telling anybody to go experimenting, but it worked for me.
And then super villain. I don't remember him saying he was from Minnesota, but I knew it. This goes back to the theme, which you probably can't see because our screen is cut off right now.
I don't know. I had no idea what this conversation was going to be about when I
not the theme of the conversation. I mean the theme of my room right now. You know what I mean? I came.
I see the purple rain shirt, fam.
You see the purple rain, and then you see what we got in the corner right there?
Garnett, hey.
Yeah, that's the Garnett.
I've met that man. We are not that much different in age. So when I was in 7th grade, I went to like an alternative school, and he had just gotten signed. So he was fresh out of high school. So he had like his little homie come that was still in high school. So we went to school together. So for a long time, his rookie year, I'd see him most days of the week. Actually, he would just pull up in the Lexus and stuff. Yeah, it was
I had Garnett, Moss, and Marbury was what I was choosing. Who is the most Minnesota of those 3?
I would say Garnett, but okay. Moss may be a close second. Marbury, everybody loves Marbury, but I don't think many people associate him with Minnesota.
Right. Yeah. He got it to New York, and they had their whole thing when he had his Starberry juice.
I just watched I watched that documentary. I didn't know that whole story. I really appreciated that documentary.
The one about him going to China?
Yeah,
that was a really dope documentary. And the thing is, I realize how stupid sports fandom is because I'm from DC, which means we are Iverson heavy. Like heavy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I like that, yeah.
So when there was this like this rivalry, so to speak, between Iverson and Marbury, between who was the better point guard, or then Ray Allen was at UConn when Iverson was at Georgetown. Somehow it never translated to Kobe, even though they were all the same draft class. But I hated Iverson his whole career, because I'm team Iverson. You know what I mean? So Marbury, like, I hated Marbury. And then I watched this movie and I was like, wow. Like, I really was just out here.
That's because sports fandom wants you to hate the opposite. Like, there's so much, like, I mean, it's like the sports fandom is politics, you know? It's like they want people divided and like very much like against each other, you know, which just sells more tickets, you know? It's like,
you know what's funny about sports fandom is the teams that everybody hates, right? Like the Cowboys or like the Yankees, like
yeah,
Duke, teams like that. The reality is you hate them, but you also want them to be around long enough so that you can enjoy rooting against them.
Yeah, of course.
Like if all the teams you hated got eliminated and you had a bunch of Cinderellas, nobody would watch it. You know what I mean?
That's why you like, that's that yin and yang idea. You know, there is no hero without a villain. It's pro wrestling, bro. Like you have to have a heel. You know, like you have to. Like that's and you know, I think
I'm,
that's how I'd summarize how bipartisan politics works as well. It's like, this is a really shitty option. It's like, yeah, but the other side's shittier. Oh yeah, you're right. Fuck that guy.
right.
You know, like there's really no good choice because
Right.
they're, you know, like, and I wish there was, maybe that's cynical, but there isn't currently two very different mindsets being, you know, I'm gonna take that back. I'm just talking about at the presidential level. I can't root for either of those gentlemen. But there is more, like, I know the government is, we can't just summarize that who's that president. Like I have a friend that's she's part of the House, Minnesota House. Great person. She's a rapper. She's the what is it? Not the senator. I don't even know what she
representative,
is.
like
yeah, the rep that raps. That's what it is.
Okay.
you can look her up. Maria Issa, very very great person. But yeah, man, the whole idea of there has to be somebody to root against. That's very yin and yang, actually.
And I mean, also, when you have two rooting against each other, it eliminates all of the realm of possibility of the good things that you can do to draw people to your side. You really just have to be better than them, right?
And the rung is getting lower.
Just
I was gonna say,
them.
The bar is just getting lower. Is the thing is, like, right now, I think so many people are like, the bar is so low right now. It's just like, you know, something's got to give.
It kind of reminds me of those video games like Madden that they would come out with every year. And you're like, all of the possibilities of things you could do to make this game better, to make 98 better than 97. You just find one thing to tweak, and then, oh, look what we fixed the receiver, the way the receivers move. Meanwhile, you have 80 other things that you're just waiting to fix so you can continue to make more games and sell one in 99, in 2000, in 2001.
And then there's the piece, I was just, you know, I don't know how far off topic this is, but just like the raw materials to make like batteries and computers and phones and stuff is like mined through slave child labor like crazy. Well documented. There's no way it's going to stop because whatever. But the thing is, we just don't need to be buying so many. But besides, if it weren't for like the what was it called? The planned obsolescence or something along those lines, where it's like they want it to be not shit next year. Like, and that's you know, to drive profits up. It's not like, you know, and I feel to tie that in with just how I feel about politics and whatnot, it's not actually to change anything, it's to maintain everything. Like, that structure is in place to not make change, you know, like people like most Americans agree on most stuff, actually. You know, like most people agree on what's important, and in big issues most people agree on, but they really emphasize the other stuff that they can, you know, drive a wedge between people to serve the ultra wealthy. You know, it's like the structure of the government is to protect the interests of the ultra wealthy, not the people. And like, I think by now the jig is up, and most educated people, or most people in general, recognize like this is some bullshit. Like, this is not, you know, like this, you're not serving like how, you know, I don't know. And criticism of I guess I guess you call it the left or whatever. It's like, you're supposed to be for the people, yet, you know, you're also warmongering, freaking war profiteering, just profiteering in general, at an insane rate. You know, like the distribution of wealth, you know, like some crazy amount of money went from the middle class and lower up to the top in like the shortest amount of time in history. Like, it's just blatant, like hand over fist, like greed.
I mean, you mentioned Israel, but I'm like, the level of tinkering that we have done internationally in the name of capitalism right? Or like these, these communist proxy wars that we fight, which, Vietnam was one, but most of them don't even involve us directly fighting, right? They just involve us, some clandestine relationship with some, coup leader, or
Right.
some weapons exchanging hands. It's crazy if you think about it's, and then we wonder why. Oh, why they hate America? We act like 50 Cent. What you mad at me for? What you mad at me for? That's America.
Hey man, and like the I completely agree, and I think the whole to just try to put a nice bow around it all is like the power of the people is like there is something taking place in the realm of consciousness and people caring and whatnot, compassion and those things that may ebb and flow, through generations and whatnot. But at least in my realm and worldview and circle and network and stuff, there's a lot of like great change being made on the grassroots level, like on the ground, and changing things like energetically. And those are direct reactions to this feeling of helplessness, or like they're, like nobody else is going to fix it. Like it's time for us to fix it. That accountability piece, that, responsibility piece. It's like right now, I mean, my nonprofit's main goal is to like make it cool to be your best again. Like that's like, because there's so many teens that are just so depressed and just so sad, and like don't see, because they feel the same way a lot of us feel, only they're even more young and powerless, and have way more of that pressure on them because they have less rights. But it really just comes down to like, what can we do, which is a lot. And like, if anything, the other side, whatever that might be, wants us to feel powerless, like, so that's the thing. And if you keep on just focusing on the fucking brick wall you can't knock down, and keep throwing yourself up against it, it'll destroy you faster than you'll destroy it. But that doesn't mean that wall can't be dismantled with mindful action. Like whatever, that's just one type of metaphor, but more or less, you can't, like, if you really want to see change, you can't be hopeless. You have to find what gives you energy, what inspires you. The word inspire, like what puts the spirit in you, like what makes you move, what makes you go, So inspiration is a very powerful commodity / resource / art. And if anything, that's like what I'm trying to do. I hear, like, this is like not to flex or brag, but like often people give me compliments that are flattering along the lines of, you inspire me, and I like don't take that lightly. It's like a really huge compliment, and it happens just so often, only because like I believe that anybody can be an inspiration to the person next to them, but it has to do with habits, like be it, find what gives you spirit day after day. Make a practice out of finding that. Do the work to figure out what feeds your spirit, what's weighing down your spirit, what's dampening it or extinguishing it, and start creating space from those things that are heavy or suppressive. And as you make that space, plant those seeds of the things that, and then it just keeps coming, so like that's the thing. It's like some days I feel like I haven't done enough. Some days I doubt myself. Some days I feel unappreciated. Like all of that stuff is still just a normal part of being human. But like on the flip side, like I know people are rooting for me and inspired by me and shit. And like, that's what I think is like the most important thing we can do, is recognize our power, because, I'm limited. But if I help people connect to the spirit that's already within them, or help them remove the blocks, then that work that I put in grows exponentially through the lives of others, and they have the same capacity to inspire those around them. It's like all this stuff is in, Buddhism and yoga and Christianity. It's all in there, you know, like you're the light that lights the person next to you and so on. And I think while the United States has, you know, historically been wealthy in the realm of finances and material, I think we're seeing more than ever. It's like had a steep decline or deficit in spiritual wealth, you know, like because that's why you have all these people that's on the internet fucking hating each other, just hating each other, like hating their fucking own lives because they're hating somebody online so much, you know. And it's like somebody is winning because of that outcome, because of that reality. Somebody's putting a lot of thought and energy into creating that environment. So the only way to combat it, you know, that Martin Luther King Jr. quote about like the darkness cannot drive out the darkness, only light can do that, you know. Hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. So you have to figure out what's the fucking opposite of the thing you hate most. If you hate that everybody's arguing with those people is not winning. You know, it's like it's very easy to spread negativity. It's much harder, maybe not harder, but requires much more work in that realm of connecting to spirit to spread positivity. But when you do, it's undeniable, you know. And that's not to say that, like, you know, one day people will be like, you fucked up, Chance, you know, like we believed in you and you're just a fucking basic ass human being, you know, like that too is like the reality of it. Like, don't fucking pedestal me, but for sure, if you want to be inspired by me and see the good that I'm doing and that helps you do something good, great. But don't mistake me for infallible, and don't think that I'm any different from you. We all can benefit from doing that internal work, and then in turn benefit everyone around us, everybody that has to deal with us every day. You know, like
principles before personalities. There you go.
Hey.
Principles before personalities. Hold on, I need to plug my laptop in because that would have been smart to do before you go live for an hour and 20 minutes.
Dude, we have been on here. We've been talking.
No, I'm good, man. Let us. Why don't you let the people know where they can find you and what you have coming up, and then you take us out with a meditation.
Dope. Dude, appreciate you having me on.
And I will also add too, as I say, hey, go ahead and take us out. Oh wait, let me say some more shit. Because I DM'd you because I realized I was like, oh well, I'm like, I switched to this other channel and I'm trying to get this thing off the ground, and my main source of beating the drum is the other channel, and I'm like, you know, I'm trying to be disciplined, right, about this separation of church and state, right? So like I'm trying to be disciplined about it. And so I reached out because you're a guy that I no question wanted to talk to, but it probably wasn't going to be one time. So I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I don't mind you coming on now because I'll bring you on later. But I reached out. Yeah, I reached out to you, but I just wanted you to know, you know what I mean? We're new, we're getting some stuff off the ground. So I very much am grateful that you pulled up, and it was dope. It was every bit as dope as I thought it would be. So I appreciate you, man.
Dude, likewise, man. It was a very easy combo. Dude, all right. So should we get into it? Oh yeah, where to find me. If you're on Instagram, you can see Chance Connected, no spaces. If you want to watch that show on PBS, you could probably easiest way would just be go to YouTube and type in Outside Chance on PBS or PBS. And what else? I got albums on Spotify. I got Chance York as the artist, or one of my old bands, Crunchy Kids. You can find on that stuff. I got a lot of stuff coming up, but not so much internet stuff. More Minneapolis-based things. I'm working with the University of Minnesota, and I'm also attending Brown University's MBSR program. But aside from all that, Instagram is the best place to follow me. That's where I'm consistent. And check out my nonprofit, Peace and Practice. Our mission is to create more Black and Brown yoga and meditation professionals.
That's dope, man. And I forgot Lululemon, brand ambassador.
I was like, he's gonna roast me on that.
That's right. I forgot about that. You know.
Well, currently, all I can really say is any large corporation slash entity is problematic in multiple ways, but every person that I've interacted with, because corporations are people, everybody I've interacted with has been extremely supportive and courteous. So I have not a single bad thing to say about the people I interact with directly at Lululemon. And I can say that the founder, Chip, is it's not a fan of mine. Like
I wasn't gonna say that. I mean,
he's not in the company anymore, but he still profits from the company, which is capitalism at the root. Like he doesn't drive the company anymore. He actually criticizes how the company's being driven,
yeah,
but he still stands to make the most of the success of the company, which I don't like, but you can't really change. And like if
I did a whole racist of the week about that dude.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I don't think he's a great person, but like I said, he's not with the company, even though he benefits from the success of the company, and that they've taken a stand doubling down on their DEI efforts, which, you can criticize that too. Like, I don't think anything is perfect, but I'm grateful for the support that I've gotten from them, and every person that I know that works there is they're cool with me. And it's like, the way that I look at it is like, if I was sponsored by Nike or whatever, it's like it's a lot of problems with that company too, man.
That's true.
Like any international thing, there's problems, and
This
like
is true.
I'm not trying to dismiss or minimize any problematic Lululemon related things, but I can say my experience has been cool, and yeah. It's like contractually I don't have to say shit, but I do feel like it's been a good experience with them.
That's good, man. That's all good, man.
All right, meditation. All right, so basic breath work. All right, so let's see. My man in the comments was talking about the 4-7-8, but this one's just a 4-4-4-4, meaning the number of counts is going to be 4 counts when you're inhaling, and then hold it for 4 counts. 4 counts, exhale, hold out for 4 counts, and start again. So that's what the box, that's why they call it a box, is because it's got 4 equal parts, including inhale, exhale, and a hold at the top and a hold at the bottom. And we'll do it probably 12 times. I'll first set up the posture, and then I'll count for us, and then I won't be counting, and you can count on your own. So first thing you want to do is sit up really tall, so your spine is long. If you can, plant your feet on the ground. Notice where the top of your head is in relation to your tailbone. Maybe you kind of tilt your pelvis a little forward to bring your tailbone a little closer to your seat. Might engage your core a little bit, might lengthen your low back a little bit. If your shoulders are rolled forward, try to draw them slightly back so there's an openness across the front of the chest. We're going to start by breathing all the way out, so empty your lungs. And then we're going to breathe in through the nose and hold and out and hold in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold, in. Just keep going on your own if you remember it. Out. Just on these last few, notice if you're really breathing down into your belly. When you breathe in, maybe your belly pushes out. When you breathe out, maybe your belly pulls in. Last couple breaths. Then you can just remove the holds and just go in to out, all the way in, all the way out for a few breaths. Kind of take note of how you feel. Maybe you might notice tension around your face, your eyes, your eye sockets, your eyelids, your jaw. And just try to soften anywhere that's tight, especially spaces around your heart. We usually hold a lot of tension around our heart. And you can continue with this in and out breath for as long as you'd like. You know, and like I said, a breath of balance is bringing you back to center, whether you're sleepy or activated, it's going to bring you back to balance. So it's a pretty good type of breath for most any situation. If you ever feel lightheaded or faint or anything, just be close to the ground and not operating a vehicle or something. But basically, the breath is always waiting for you to remember that life is right now and it's nowhere else. It's only right here, right now.
Hey man, I appreciate you. I'm gonna be on a plane with the whole family and 2 screaming kids on my way down to Florida.
I just got back, bro. I just got back from Florida. I was there till Tuesday.
It's gonna be a lot of breathing.
Dude, it worked, dude. This was the most successful drama-free vacations I've ever had. I was doing a lot of breathing.
Yes. Oh, that's dope, man.
There's also a lot of edibles involved, but whatever.
Hey, you know what I mean? You can breathe through those too.
They go together. They do go together. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. It was really dope. I appreciate you as always, and definitely make sure you come back, man.
I will. Hell yeah.
Hey, keep doing you, man. Keep kicking ass.
Likewise, bro. Peace.
All right, I appreciate you guys joining me here on this live. We'll be back Tuesday on the other channel, on the Reese Waters channel, going live, and then we'll be back next Thursday as well. Yolanda said, "Thanks, Chance and Reese." Thank you, Yolanda. I appreciate you. Thank you, and thank you guys to you guys over there on Instagram. I didn't realize that, and Paige's Yoga said you will need that breathing. No doubt. No doubt I will need that breathing, Paige. I appreciate that. I didn't know I could go live that long on Instagram. So we learned something. We learned something new together. But I appreciate you guys. I'll have something special for you tomorrow on the other channel. But as soon as I get this video with Chance cut up, I'm gonna have a whole new host of content for this channel. So I appreciate you guys. Have a beautiful weekend.